The space around Kepler Prime looked like a metal storm. 312 alien warships hung in the darkness, their hulls gleaming under the distant star's light. Each ship was massive, built for war, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. The Zephyrian Collective had brought their finest fleet too. End the human problem once and for all. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. His four eyes scanned the data stream showing enemy positions. The readings made him happy. Only one human ship showed up on his sensors. One single vessel against his entire armada. "Admiral, we have confirmed the target," his tactical officer reported. The alien's voice carried the clicking sounds typical of his species. One human cruiser, designation unknown. It appears to be holding position near the third planet. Vexstar's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. One ship? The humans send one ship to face the greatest fleet in Zephyrian history. He turned to his communications officer. "Are you certain our sensors are working correctly?" "Yes." "Admiral, all systems are functioning perfectly. We detect one human vessel, approximately 200 meters in length. It appears to be an older model cruiser, possibly 20 years old by human standards." The Admiral walked closer to the main view screen. Through the darkness of space, he could barely make out the tiny speck that was the human ship. It looked pathetic compared to his massive dreadnoughts. Each of his largest ships was 4 times the size of that little human vessel. "Perhaps they are surrendering," suggested his second-in-command. A younger Zephyrian with bright green markings on his carapace. "Maybe they realize they cannot win against us," Vexter said slowly. "Humans do not surrender easily. They are stubborn creatures." But what could they possibly hope to accomplish with one ship? On the human vessel, Captain Jake Morrison stood calmly on his bridge. The used Defiance was indeed 23 years old, but she had been his home for the past 8 years. He knew every bolt, every wire, every system on this ship. More importantly, he knew his crew. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from the tactical station, reading 312 enemy vessels on long-range sensors. "Their weapons are powered up, and they're moving into attack formation." Jake nodded. "Thank you, Amy. Ben, open a channel to the lead alien ship." Communications Officer Ben Carter worked at his console for a moment. "Channel open, sir?" Jake straightened his uniform and looked directly at the main screen. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. You've entered human space without permission. We'll leave now, or face the consequences." The bridge fell silent. Even his own crew looked at him with surprise. Lieutenant Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Captain, are you sure about this message?" "Send it," Jake said firmly. On the Zephyrian flagship, the translation came through clearly. Admiral Vexstar listened to the human's words with growing amazement. Then he began to laugh. The sound was harsh and alien, like metal scraping against stone. "Did you hear that?" He called out to his bridge crew. "The human threatens us. One ship against our entire fleet, and he gives us warnings." His officers joined in the laughter. Some of them had to hold on to their stations to keep from falling over. The idea of a single human ship threatening their massive armada was the funniest thing they had heard in cycles. "Shall we respond, Admiral?" asked the communications officer. "Yes." Vexstar wiped moisture from his eyes. "Tell the human that we appreciate his humor. Ask him if he would like to surrender now, or if he prefers to be destroyed quickly." Back on the Defiance, Ben Carter received the alien response. "Captain, they're laughing at us. They want to know if we'd like to surrender." Jake smiled slightly. "Tell them we decline their generous offer. Amy, begin Protocol 7. Rodriguez's fingers flew over her controls. "Protocol 7 initiated, sir. All stations report ready." "What's Protocol 7? asked Ensign Danny Walsh, the newest member of the bridge crew. Science Officer Lisa Grant looked up from her station. "We'll see, Danny. Lisa, start sending the burst transmissions." "Sending now," Captain Ben replied. His fingers danced across the communications panel, sending short, encrypted messages to coordinates throughout the system. Navigation Officer Sam Hughes made small adjustments to their course. "Captain, I'm picking up some interesting readings from the asteroid field near the fourth planet. Interesting how? Jake asked. They're not exactly what they appear to be, sir. Jake nodded. Excellent. Pete, how are our engines? Chief engineer. Pete Williams called up from the engine room through the CUM system. Running smooth as silk, Captain? All systems are green? Good, we might need to move quickly soon. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Vexstar was growing impatient with the humans' strange behavior. Why don't they run? Why don't they fight? What are they waiting for? Perhaps they are calling for help, suggested his tactical officer. We detected some strange energy signatures from their ship. Help from where? Vexstar demanded. Our long-range sensors show no other human ships in this entire sector. The nearest human fleet is 5 days away at maximum warp speed. The human ship is moving, reported the navigation officer. They appear to be heading toward the outer system. Are they running away? Unknown, sir. Speed is slow, almost casual. If they wanted to escape, they would be moving much faster. Vexstar stared at the tactical display. The human ship was indeed moving, but not in any pattern that made sense. It wasn't fleeing toward the edge of the system where it might escape. To hyperspace, it wasn't charging forward to attack. It was just moving. I don't like this, he muttered. Humans are never this calm when they're about to die. They fight like wild animals when cornered. Perhaps this human is different, suggested his second-in-command. No, Vexstar said firmly. No human is different. They are all the same. Violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. This one is planning something. He was absolutely right. Admiral Vexstar decided he had waited long enough. The human ship was still moving slowly through space, making no aggressive moves but also not running away. This strange behavior made him nervous, and Vexstar did not like being nervous. Open. A channel to the human ship, he ordered. Want to speak with their captain directly. His communications officer worked at his console. Channel open, Admiral? The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the human vessel. Admiral Vexstar saw a middle-aged human male in a blue uniform sitting calmly in what appeared to be the command chair. The human looked completely relaxed, as if he were having a normal conversation instead of facing certain death. I am Admiral Vexstar of the Zephyrian Collective, the alien commander announced. You are Captain Morrison, I assume. That's correct? Jake replied politely. What can I do for you, Admiral? Vexstar. S4 eyes blinked in sequence. The human's calm tone was disturbing. You can explain why you have not surrendered or attempted to flee? You must realize that your situation is hopeless. Jake leaned back in his chair. Admiral, I think there might be some confusion here.
Ew.
See, humans approach warfare differently than most species in the galaxy. Differently how? Vexstar demanded. Well, most species seem to believe that whoever has the biggest fleet wins the battle. They count ships, compare weapon systems, add up their firepower, and decide the outcome before anyone fires a shot. The Admiral's mandibles clicked impatiently, because that is how wars are won, human. Superior numbers and superior firepower determine victory. Jake smiled. That's exactly what I mean. You're thinking like every other species we've ever encountered. But humans learned a long time ago that the biggest army doesn't always win. On the human bridge, Science Officer Lisa Grant was working frantically at her station. Her fingers moved quickly across multiple displays, coordinating data streams from sources throughout the system. Numbers and symbols flowed across her screens, in patterns that would have been meaningless to the aliens watching. Captain, she said quietly, I'm receiving confirmation signals from all primary nodes. Network integrity is at 96%. Jake nodded slightly, never taking his eyes off the alien admiral.
Thank you, Lisa.
Continue monitoring. Navigation Officer Sam Hughes was also busy at his station. He was plotting course corrections. That seemed random to anyone watching, but each small change in direction was actually part of a larger pattern. The Defiance was moving through space in a way that appeared casual, but was actually very precise. Admiral Jake continued, Would you like to know how humans think about warfare? Vexstar was growing more frustrated by the moment. This human was acting like he was giving a lecture instead of facing annihilation. Explain quickly, human. My patience has limits. Of course. You see, humans learned early in our history that battles are not won by the side with the most soldiers. They are won by the side that controls the battlefield. What does that mean? Jake gestured toward the view screen, indicating the space around them. It means that whoever decides where the battle happens, when it happens, and how it happens, usually wins. Numbers matter, but preparation matters more. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was implementing the next phase of Protocol 7. Her tactical display showed dozens of targets throughout the system, each one pulsing with a soft green light. She was coordinating with systems that the aliens could not see, preparing for events that the aliens could not imagine. "Captain," she reported, "all defensive platforms are online. Stealth generators are functioning at full capacity." "Excellent work, Amy." Admiral Vexstar was listening to this conversation with growing confusion. "What are defensive platforms? With stealth generators? Our sensors show nothing but empty space in your single ship?" Jake's smile grew wider. "Admiral, that's exactly my point. Your sensors show you what we want them to show you. Human technology has been developing for quite some time now." Communications Officer Ben Carter was sending more encrypted messages to coordinates throughout the system. Each message was short and used codes that would be impossible for the aliens to break. The messages were going to receivers that had been waiting silently in the darkness for years. "Admiral," Jake said, "may I ask you a question?" Vexstar replied suspiciously. "How long have you been planning this attack on human space?" The alien commander puffed up with pride. "We have been preparing for over 2 years. This fleet represents the finest ships and most experienced crews in the collective. We have studied human tactics, analyzed human weaknesses, and planned for every possible response." 2 years, Jake repeated thoughtfully. "That's impressive. Very thorough. It is more than enough time to plan the destruction of one human colony system." Jake nodded appreciatively. "Admiral, humans have been preparing for your attack for 15 years. The statement hit the alien bridge like a physical blow. Vexstar's officers looked at each other with sudden concern. 15 years? That's impossible. We only decided to attack human space 3 years ago. Admiral, humans have been expecting this attack since the day we first made contact with the Zephyrian Collective. We knew that eventually someone would decide that humans were a threat that needed to be eliminated." Chief Engineer Pete Williams called up from the engine room.
"Captain."
"All power systems are running at optimal levels. We're ready for full implementation." Medical Officer Kate Johnson was at her station, coordinating with installations throughout the system. Her job was not to treat wounded crew members, but to maintain communication with hidden human colonies that the aliens knew nothing about. Security Chief Alex Thompson was monitoring systems that were not visible on any of the bridge displays. His job was to ensure that when the time came, everything would work exactly as planned. "Admiral," Jake said, his voice still calm and friendly, "you ask why I haven't surrendered or run away? The answer is simple. This is not a battle you can win." "1 ship against 300? Vexstar roared. "How can you possibly believe that?" Jake looked directly into the alien's 4 eyes. "Because, Admiral, you're not fighting 1 ship. You never were." Admiral Vexstar stared at the human captain with growing anger. "What do you mean we are not fighting 1 ship? Our sensors clearly show only your vessel in this entire system." Jake Morrison's calm expression never changed. "Admiral, your sensors show you what they are designed to see. Human technology has advanced considerably since our last major conflict." "You are bluffing," Vexstar declared. "I will prove it," turned to his tactical officer. "Send 50 ships forward, probe attack formation. There are other human vessels hiding somewhere. This will force them to reveal themselves." "Admiral," the tactical officer replied. 50 Zephyrian warships broke away from the main fleet and began moving toward the lone human cruiser. On the Defiance, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez watched her tactical display as the alien ships approached. "Captain, 50 enemy vessels are moving toward us. They'll be in weapons range in 12 minutes. "Thank you, Amy. Begin the retreat pattern." The human ship slowly turned away from the approaching alien vessels and began moving deeper into the system. To the Zephyrians, it looked like the humans were finally running away in fear. "They flee," shouted Vexstar's second-in-command. The human was lying about hidden ships. They are alone and afraid. But Admiral Vexstar was not convinced. Something about the human's behavior still bothered him. The retreat was too slow, too controlled. If the humans were really afraid, they would be running much faster. Science Officer Lisa Grant was working at 3 different stations simultaneously. Her displays showed a complex web of connections throughout the system. Captain, all primary. Nodes are reporting ready status. The network is fully active. Acknowledged. Sam, take us to position Gamma 7. Navigation Officer Sam Hughes made course corrections that seemed random but were actually guiding the Defiance toward a specific location in space. The alien probe force followed, thinking they were chasing a fleeing enemy. Admiral reported. The tactical officer on the Zephyrian flagship, the human ship is moving toward the asteroid field near the 4th planet. Okay, if they enter that field, our larger ships will have difficulty following, and we destroy them before they reach it. Vexstar decided, order the probe force to increase speed and open fire as soon as they are in range. The 50 alien warships accelerated, eager to destroy the lone human vessel. Their weapon systems powered up, ready to deliver overwhelming firepower against what appeared to be a helpless target, but as the Zephyrian ships moved deeper into the system, something strange began to happen. Space around them started to change. The first sign was a small asteroid that suddenly wasn't where it was supposed to be. The asteroid seemed to shift position slightly, just enough to make the alien navigation computers recalculate their course. Plots. Then another asteroid moved, and another. Sir called out the navigation officer on the lead Zephyrian ship. I'm getting strange readings from the surrounding asteroids. They appear to be moving out of their predicted orbits. Space debris. Often shifts position, replied the ship's captain. Continue the attack. But the asteroids weren't just shifting. They were revealing themselves to be something else entirely. On the Defiance, Chief Engineer Pete Williams was monitoring power levels throughout the system. Captain, all hidden installations are now online. Power grid is stable at full capacity. Excellent, Pete. Amy, activate the defensive grid. Lieutenant Rodriguez pressed a sequence of buttons on her tactical console. Grid activation in 3, 2, 1 mark. Throughout the system, objects that had appeared to be asteroids, derelict satellites, and space debris suddenly came alive. Stealth fields that had been hiding them for years deactivated all at once. The 50 Zephyrian ships found themselves surrounded by weapons platforms that had been invisible moments before. What they had thought was empty space was actually filled with human defensive installations. Admiral, screamed the captain of the lead probe ship over the communications channel. We're surrounded. There are weapons platforms everywhere. Admiral. Vexstar watched his tactical display in horror as dozens of new contacts appeared around his probe force. Where did they come from? How is this possible? On the human bridge, Jake Morrison was coordinating the defensive response. Ben, send the activation codes to all platforms. Lisa began targeting solutions. Communications Officer Ben Carter sent encrypted signals to every hidden installation in the system. Each platform received its orders and began locking onto Alien. Target Science Officer Lisa Grant's displays showed targeting data flowing between dozens of weapons platforms. The hidden installations were working together like parts of a single massive weapon system. The Zephyrian probe force tried to fight back, but they were completely outmaneuvered. They had expected to face one ship, but instead found themselves fighting an entire defensive network that had been waiting for them. Weapons fire lit up the darkness of space. The hidden platforms used advanced targeting systems that could track multiple enemy ships simultaneously. The alien vessels, caught by surprise and surrounded, could not coordinate an effective defense. All probe ships retreat immediately, Admiral Vexstar ordered. But it was too late. The human defensive grid had been designed specifically to trap enemy forces. The weapons platforms created overlapping fields of fire that made escape nearly impossible. One by one, the Zephyrian ships were destroyed or disabled in less than 10 minutes. The entire 50-ship probe force was eliminated, not a single alien vessel escaped to report what they had discovered. Admiral Vexstar stared at his tactical display in shocked silence. 50 of his finest warships had been destroyed by weapons that his sensors had never detected. The space around the human ship was once again showing as empty, but now he knew that was a lie. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Vexstar looked at the human ship on his view screen. Captain Morrison was still sitting calmly in his command chair, as if nothing unusual had happened. "How many more platforms are hidden out there?" Vexstar whispered. Jake Morrison smiled. "Admiral, you're beginning to understand. This is what humans call preparation." Admiral Vexstar felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear, real, cold fear that made his hands shake as he gripped the command rail on his bridge. 50 ships, 50 of his best warships had been destroyed, in minutes, by weapons that appeared from nowhere. His sensors still showed mostly empty space around the human vessel, but now he knew that meant nothing. "Admiral," his second-in-command spoke carefully, "perhaps we should consider withdrawing and requesting reinforcements." "No," Vexter roared, his voice echoing through the bridge. "I will not be humiliated by a single human ship and some hidden weapons. We have over 200 ships remaining. We will crush them with overwhelming force." His tactical officer looked nervous. "Sir, if they have more hidden platforms, then we will find them and destroy them," Vexstar declared. "All ships, full attack formation. Every vessel, maximum speed toward the human ship. We will not give them time to coordinate their defenses." The massive Zephyrian fleet began moving forward as one unit. Over 250 warships accelerated toward the lone human cruiser, their weapons charging and shields at maximum power. On the Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet approach with the same calm expression he had maintained throughout the encounter. "Well, they're committed now. Initiate final phase protocols." Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "Final phase protocols active. Captain, all systems report ready. Lisa, how are our network connections?" Officer Lisa Grant looked up from her displays, which were now showing data streams from hundreds of sources throughout the system. "Network is operating at full capacity, Captain. All nodes are responding perfectly." Jake nodded and opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Morrison to all stations. The enemy is committed to full attack. Execute final phase on my mark."
Throughout
the system, hidden installations that had remained dormant began coming online. These were not just the weapons platforms that had destroyed the probe force. These were much larger, much more sophisticated systems that had been built over many years. Medical Officer Kate Johnson was coordinating with what appeared to be medical facilities, but were actually command centers hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. "Captain, all colony command centers report ready. Population centers are secure." Security Chief Alex Thompson was monitoring defensive systems that protected not just the ship, but entire hidden settlements throughout the system. "All civilian areas are sealed and protected, Captain." Navigation Officer Sam Hughes was plotting courses for ships that weren't visible on any display. "Hidden fleet elements are in position and awaiting orders, sir." Admiral Vexstar was pushing his fleet harder than he had ever pushed them before. "All ships, prepare to fire on my command. We will destroy that human vessel and everything around it." But as the Zephyrian fleet charged forward, the space around them began to change again. This time it wasn't just asteroids and small platforms that revealed themselves. Entire asteroid fields suddenly came alive. What had appeared to be natural rock formations were actually massive weapons systems disguised to look like space debris. Gun platforms the size of small moons emerged from stealth fields that had hidden them for decades. "Admiral," screamed his sensor operator, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. There are weapons platforms everywhere." "Sir, hundreds of them." But that wasn't the worst discovery. As the Zephyrian fleet moved deeper into the system, something even more shocking happened. Entire worlds that had appeared uninhabited on their scans suddenly came alive with activity. "Sir," the communications officer reported with terror in his voice, "I'm detecting launch signatures from the third and fourth planets. Thousands of launch signatures." Admiral Vexstar watched in horror as swarms of small fighters began emerging from planets his intelligence reports had said were empty. The fighters moved in perfect formation, clearly following coordinated battle plans. "How many fighters?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. My sensors are showing over 10,000 contacts, and the number is still climbing." But the fighters were just the beginning. As the Zephyrian fleet continued their charge, larger ships began appearing throughout the system. Human cruisers, destroyers, and battleships decloaked from positions where they had been waiting silently. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "I'm now reading over 300 human vessels in this system. They were all hidden until now." Chief Engineer Pete Williams called up to the Defiance bridge from the engine room. "Captain, all power systems throughout the network are stable. We're ready for full-scale engagement." Jake Morrison stood up from his command chair and looked at the main view screen, which now showed the true scope of the human defensive network. "Admiral Vexstar, can you hear me?" The alien commander's voice came through the speakers, shaking with rage and fear. "How is this possible?" "Our intelligence said this system was lightly defended, Admiral. This system has been heavily defended for 15 years. Every asteroid, every derelict satellite, every piece of space debris you can see has been modified and weaponized. The planets you thought were uninhabited actually house millions of humans and thousands of ships. You were never facing one ship," Jake continued. "You were facing an entire defensive network designed specifically to stop fleets exactly like yours. We've been preparing for this attack since the day we first met your species." Admiral Vexstar looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. His fleet was completely surrounded by human forces. There were weapons platforms above them, below them, and on all sides. Human ships were moving into attack positions throughout the system. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species could hide a fleet this large." Jake's voice remained calm and steady. "Admiral, you're thinking like every other species we've encountered. You assumed that because you couldn't see our ships, they weren't there. You assumed that because our planets looked uninhabited, they were empty. You assumed that because you only detected one ship, we only had one ship. Humans don't make assumptions, Admiral. We prepare for every possibility." The Zephyrian fleet found itself trapped in the middle of the largest military ambush in galactic history. Admiral Vexstar stared at his tactical display as the reality of his situation became clear. His fleet of over 200 ships was completely surrounded by thousands of human vessels and weapons platforms. Every direction showed enemy contacts. "There was no way out, Admiral. What are your orders?" his tactical officer asked quietly. Vexstar said nothing. For the first time in his military career, he had no idea what to do. Every battle plan he had ever learned was useless in this situation. The humans had turned the entire star system into one massive trap. On the Defiance, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. All stations maintain positions, but do not fire unless fired upon. Want to give them a chance to surrender? Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was managing targeting data from over 5,000 different weapons systems. "Captain, all platforms have target locks on enemy vessels. We can destroy their entire fleet in approximately 4 minutes. "Understood, but hold fire for now." A science officer, Lisa Grant, was monitoring communications throughout the system. "Captain, I'm receiving reports from all sector commands. Every hidden installation is operating perfectly, and the network has complete coverage of the entire system." Jake nodded with satisfaction. 15 years of planning and preparation had led. To this moment, humans had built the most sophisticated defensive network in galactic history. It was working exactly as designed. Communications Officer Ben Carter received a priority message. "Captain Admiral Vexstar is requesting to speak with you directly." "Put him through." The main screen showed the alien commander. Admiral Vexstar looked older than he had just hours before. The confidence and arrogance were gone, replaced by the expression of someone who finally understood how badly he had been outmaneuvered. Captain Morrison Vexstar began slowly. "I want to understand something. How did you hide so many ships and weapons?" "Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy." Jake sat back in his command chair. "Admiral, you're still thinking about this the wrong way. We didn't hide our ships from your sensors. We built our ships to be invisible to your sensors. What is the difference?" "The difference is that we designed everything specifically to fool Zephyrian technology. We studied your sensor systems for years. We learned exactly how they work, and then built stealth technology that could defeat them completely. Admiral Vextar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You planned this entire defense specifically to fight us? Not just you, Admiral. We planned it to fight anyone who might attack human space. But yes, we studied every major military power in the galaxy and designed our defenses to stop all of them. Navigation Officer Sam Hughes was coordinating the movement of the human fleet.
Hundreds
Of ships were moving into perfect formation around the trapped aliens. Captain, all fleet elements are in final positions. Chief Engineer Pete Williams reported from engineering. Often all power systems are running smoothly. You can maintain full operations indefinitely. Medical Officer Kate Johnson was monitoring. The civilian populations throughout the system, Captain, all colony centers report secure. No casualties among our people. Security Chief Alex Thompson was watching for any sign that the aliens might try a desperate attack. Captain, enemy fleet is holding position. No aggressive movements detected. Jake opened the communication channel again. Admiral, I'm going to explain something to you about human military philosophy. Other species build bigger weapons and larger fleets when they want to win wars. Humans build smarter strategies. What do you mean? We don't try to build ships that can beat enemy ships in direct combat. Instead, we build situations where the enemy can't win no matter how many ships they have. Admiral Vextar was beginning to understand. This entire system is a weapon. Exactly. The planets, the asteroids, the hidden bases, the concealed fleets. Everything works together as one massive defensive system. You weren't fighting one ship or even one fleet. You were fighting an entire star system that was designed to destroy. Invading forces. But how did you know we were coming? Jake smiled. Admiral, we've been monitoring Zephyrian military communications for 3 years. We knew about your attack plans before some of your own officers did. The alien commander felt a chill run through his body. You've been spying on us. We've been preparing for you. There's a difference. We don't want to conquer anyone, Admiral. We just want to be left alone. But if someone threatens human space, we make sure they regret it. Admiral Vextar looked at his tactical display one more time. His entire fleet was trapped with no hope of escape. What happens now, Captain? That depends on you, Admiral. Can order your fleet to surrender, and we'll allow you to leave human space safely. Or you can try to fight, and we'll destroy every ship you have. If we surrender, what guarantee do we have that you won't attack us anyway? Jake's expression became serious. Admiral, if we wanted to destroy your fleet, we would have done it already. We've had you completely surrounded for the past 20 minutes. The fact that you're still alive should tell you something about human intentions. You could have destroyed us the moment we entered the system. Yes, we could have. But humans prefer to win wars without fighting when possible. Dead enemies can't spread the word about what happens when you attack human space. Admiral Vextar understood. The humans weren't just defeating his fleet. They were sending a message to every other species in the galaxy: attack human space and face consequences beyond imagination. Captain Morrison, Vextar said formally, the Zephyrian collective fleet surrenders. We request permission to withdraw from human space. Permission granted, Admiral, but understand. This, if any Zephyrian ships ever enter human space again without permission, there will be no warnings and no second chances. As the alien fleet began its retreat, Communications Officer Ben Carter received new orders. Captain, we're receiving deployment orders from Earth Command. We're to proceed to the Vega sector and begin establishing similar defenses. Jake Morrison smiled as he watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Set course for Vega, Sam. We have more systems to protect. The Use Defiance, no longer alone, began moving toward its next assignment, followed by the hidden fleet that had made victory possible.